0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Tarok's brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Tarok's brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Tarok's has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit tarox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mike Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. I'd like to welcome to today's Backseat Driver radio show, Martin Lawrence, a man who, shall we say, isn't fond of Lotus. He's fanatical about Lotus. When I pulled into his driveway, there was the most glorious Lotus Elan sat there, but the one thing I soon discovered, it is not just a Lotus Elan. Martin, welcome to the Backseat Driver Radio Show.
Thank you very much.
How did you get into Lotus? Because, I mean, you'll have heard all the jokes. Loads of trouble, usually serious. Collector's car, drive 5 miles, get out, walk back down the road and collect all the bits that's dropped off it.
Well, I strongly disagree there. Lotus back in the bad old days did have that reputation, I'll agree with you. But now they've really upped the game and things have changed. But after saying that, although I do have a modern Lotus, I much prefer the old cars.
Yeah.
And the Lotus Elans especially, I particularly love. I've gone through many of them over the years in various states of rebuild of beautiful cars. Excuse me.
I mean, they are what I would call, it's like the MGB in many ways. They're a quintessential British sports car. The looks of them, the lines of them, they look like a British sports car should look.
Yeah, I agree, and Lotus is one of those names that everybody's heard of in this country, but not everybody's familiar with the cars because there were so few of them built originally, they were quite specialised. But back to your original question, how I got into Lotus, my father used to be a marine engineer, and when he was at home, he used to rebuild old MGs. So my love was originally with MGs, old TCs and TF models. The old type with the cycle wings down the side and things, which were great. And my involvement was, can you get under that dashboard and get your little hand in and reach that for me? So I was brought up rebuilding old cars. At the time, those MGs were probably not that old, but it seems a long time ago now. And then as I grew up and I sort of drifted away from home and developed my own career and interests, and then families come along, I wasn't involved with the cars quite so much. But then quite out of the blue, over a short period of time, Dad took very ill and we lost him. He left me a little bit of cash. And I always thought, what can I do with this that Dad would approve of? And I thought, I know, I've got a bit more time on my hands now. Kids are grown up a bit. Why don't I buy a car that I can rebuild and just play with, like we used to do with Dad? And I thought that was a good investment for the money. Fortunately, I had the approval of my wife, which always helps. So I started looking around, and I obviously trawled the adverts, eBay, etc. And I came across this Lotus Elan Plus 2, and it was the other end of the country. It was down at Poole in Dorset on the south coast. And anyway, I contacted the guy and said, look, you say in the advert it hasn't got an MOT, it's been off the road some time. Just be honest and tell me, what state this car's in. So he gave me the rundown on it, and it turned out he had a small film company and it had been bought in as a prop. And they were relocating the business to the south of France, so they were selling off all the props, and he had a warehouse full of cars. He had white Rolls Royces and E-Type Jags and all sorts that had been used in pop videos and things. And this one car had been used for a split couple of seconds in a Duran Duran video at some point. And he said, I don't know anything about it other than I know it starts and it drives. We'll put a new battery on it and it works. I said, well, do us a favour. Can you run it down to your local MOT station and see what he comes up with? And he rang me back that afternoon and he said, surprise, surprise, it's passed its test. And I said, well, do me a favour, because this was on eBay, it was on an auction. I said, don't alter your advert and let me bid on it, knowing that it's now got an MOT. And the guy was very accommodating. He says, look, I really don't care, as long as it sells, we've just got to get rid of it. So I put in what I thought was a reasonable bid, and I won it in the end. So I jumped on the train, went down to Poole. I said to him, do you think it'll drive back? He says, I have no idea, but you want me to try? So I took a risk and I drove it back.
Yeah.
And I got within sort of 20 miles of home and the alternator failed.
Yeah.
And in the dark and the lights were going down, but I got it home, had a great drive back, and that was the start of my interest in Lotus.
Yeah.
So from there, I rebuilt that car over a number of years. It's engine rebuilds, the normal, and all the weak points on the Elan.
I just have interest. What engine was in that car?
That was the 1558 Lotus twin cam engine, which was one of the later engines, which had the big valve head and the 130 brake horse and twin 40 Webers on it. Nice engine. In its day, unfortunately, the cylinder heads were never brilliant castings, even when they were new, and you get problems with them. But even so, when a twin cam is running nicely, it really is a nice engine.
Yeah.
And they're one of those legendary engines that everybody wanted to race. Even Jim Clark and that raced the Lotus Cortinas with that engine.
Yeah. It's something like you see anything that's got Lotus twin cam down the side of it, even if it's not in a Lotus. There's something evocative about those engines, isn't there?
There is, but I think that's where they're saying lots of trouble, usually serious, comes from. We now try and correct people and say it's actually lots of torque, usually sideways. But hey, I'll let people decide on that one themselves. So that was the start of it, really, for me with Lotus, and from there, after rebuilding that one and having a lot of interest in making a lot of friends along the way and meeting a lot of like-minded people and getting involved in NILOC, which is the North Yorkshire Lotus Owners Club, who are a great bunch of guys.
Nothing to do with the nut.
So I've been right through the range of Lotuses. I think I'm on about number 35 now.
Yeah. Because it started off a bit of a craze, didn't it? You felt an urge to own a lot of them.
I did, yes. And I did start collecting them at one point. And the little bit of money that Dad left me didn't go very far. And then you start getting into Lotus Esprits and V8 Esprits. And they're a money pit to keep them maintained and running properly. And I do nearly all the maintenance myself. The rebuilding of engines and gearboxes is not a problem to me. Dad taught me very well when I was a youngster. The only thing I won't do is paint work myself. But I have found I'm getting quite good with repairing fiberglass on Lotuses, which is good because my welding's not up to much.
So you've gone from the classic through to the latest cars. I mean, we'll get back to this famous Elan of yours later on, but you've been through all the job, a lot of them. Which do you prefer, the old ones or the new ones, or which ones stand out from each era of Lotus that you've owned?
Okay, I do have a soft spot for the older Elans, and I think probably because the Elan Plus 2 was my first venture into Lotus, it sort of stuck with me as a love affair, really. And although I don't actually own a Plus 2 at the minute, I've got the little Elan, often referred to as the baby Elan, and purists tell you off for doing that, but hey, it's not very original, as you've already seen, so we'll talk about that. But I've also experimented and played with things like the Lotus Esprits. I love the Lotus Esprits. I prefer the 4 cylinders to. So I was going to say, just put in, there's the big debate about the 4 cylinders and the turbos and everything else for the Esprit.
Which is the Esprit, in your opinion, that you need to own?
I think without a doubt the S4S is, or a Sport 300, but a Sport 300 is about as rare as hen's teeth. But the S4S is pretty much the same spec, much nicer interior, nicely finished, very livable with. The 4-cylinder engines by that point in development, very, very reliable, very strong engine, developing about 300 brake horsepower and a light car. I mean, they really were the supercar of the day.
Yeah.
The V8 engines, which was a Lotus developed own engine, was a lovely engine, but it was fragile.
Yeah.
And I felt whenever I was driving a V8, it was like driving a 1970s Ferrari. It was great when it worked, but you're just expecting something to go wrong. But I did have a lot of fun with the V8s, but I didn't have a lot of fun with the maintenance that are required.
Yeah.
I've now moved on to the modern cars, so the Elises and the Exeges. I've had a few Exeges. I've had a couple of 260 Cups, which are very specialist cars, brilliant track day cars. I now have a modern Exige Sport 380, which is slightly modified, so it gives a little bit more, which I think is the sweet spot in the current range of the Exeges. But there'll be people out there that want to argue with me, which is fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. So yeah, I've been right through it, and I was lucky enough to be invited to one of the launches of the new Lotus Evija electric car, which I think is a bit of a Marmite car. To love it, I hate it. I am not a fan of electric vehicles, and I'm yet to be convinced that they're a really practical route to go down. But I've got to say, the design of the car is absolutely incredible. It is out of the world. It's like a Batmobile on steroids.
I mean, I'm quite honest, I've only seen photographs of them, and you are talking to, shall we say, an electric car skeptic. I think they have their place, but a few weeks ago I had the guy who owns Sync EV, which is one of the big, they make the smallest electric car charger you can buy, and this guy will turn around and tell you electric cars are 6 years away from being where they need to be. So don't get me on this topic, but
don't start me.
Don't start you either.
The infrastructure's not there to support them.
I think with the modern Lotus, like the Elise and the Exige, etc., I think that brought Lotus into, shall we say, into the minds of people, and they were available. Whereas the older Lotus, like the Elans and things, they are something of a rarefied car. What do you think about the modern Lotus? Has it, shall we say, expanded the appeal of the brand and of Lotus cars?
Yes, I believe it has, without any shadow of a doubt. The Elise, when it was first introduced, was a revolutionary car that came onto the market. Not a lot of power, originally about 118 brake horsepower in a very lightweight car, but it handled like a go-kart. The build quality was so superior to what the earlier cars had been. The finish was good. The motoring press loved it, and they pushed it, and the public really took to the car.
Yeah.
So that was the start of the real modern Lotus, as I see it, and then the Elise has developed through a few different stages now. In every stage has its fans, and the more modern ones are not liked by the guys that like the early Mark 1s and this sort of, and there's a constant debate, but that's up to people to make their own mind up. But personally, I think the development of the car through what I would like to call the modern age of Lotus has been quite spectacular.
Yeah.
And the development in power outputs and the performance, but the out-and-out handling of the cars and usability of the cars, apart from the obvious climbing in and out of modern releases, isn't so easy for some people. And certainly ladies don't try and get in and out wearing a short skirt. But as an actual day-to-day usable car with phenomenal performance and handling, which outperform cars much more expensive, exotic Italian stuff and German stuff that we won't talk about. You can knock spots off them for less than half the price of what you would pay for a German vehicle. The other thing that brought Lotus to the forefront of people's minds was the James Bond using them.
Yeah.
Every schoolboy knows about the underwater Esprit, the white Esprit that turned into a submarine, and that brought the name to a lot of people's attention, I think. And so, the Esprits developed through various stages and got better and better as they went on, in my opinion. Much more reliable, build quality became much, much better. And to come back to modern cars now, I think Lotus a few years ago were going through a bit of a bad patch financially, design-wise. They had some great ideas, but they didn't have the money to put them into production. Lotus has now been taken over by Geely, which is a Chinese company, but they own Volvo and various other big manufacturers. And Geely seem to have really taken Lotus to heart, and they're throwing money at it to develop. They're developing new factories. The Lotus engineering side is taken off in a big, big way with the backing. They're creating a lot of employment, which has got to be good in these days, especially in the motor industry, the way it's gone this last year with COVID hitting sales, etc. I
suppose it's a bit of a catch-22. Whatever your views are, they blame the Chinese for the current plague, but the Chinese, like with Geely, with Lotus, are doing great things and bringing employment and things like that.
I think it's great what they're doing, and yes, I don't want to see Lotus has been built using Volvo parts bins, but I think from what I can understand and what I learned from people on the inside and in the know, Lotus are very, very much being allowed to develop their own way with the backing of Geely. So hopefully, like the Avija coming out now, they are committed to going down electric and hybrid route. It'll be very interesting to see what comes out next. We know there's a new vehicle coming out possibly next year, which is going to slot into the range somewhere between Exige and Evora. I haven't seen any previews of that as yet, but that's going to be very exciting. As I understand, it's still going to be a petrol-engined car, but whether we get an electric alternative to go with it or a hybrid version remains to be seen. I'd love to see a hybrid version and see what they can do with that.
I think hybrids are all right, personally. I mean, but the one thing is, Mike, you mentioned the original Little Elite. If you look back at the Lotus 7, the Super 7s, it should be called, the Elans, you take it through to the Elites, and you were talking about the Esprits, which is the best one. It's the 4-cylinder. They all embody Colin Chapman's ethos of make them incredibly light, and you don't need to put a huge engine in them. Tune up a small engine to give you power. Put it in an ultra lightweight car, and you will show the big V8s, the big heavy muscle cars, the Italian cars, you'll show them how it should be done. And that seems to be the thing that has always run through Lotus.
Oh, I agree. Lotus is still sticking to Colin Chapman's original ideas of add lightness to improve performance.
I know his only problem was if it does 71 laps and it's only a 70 lap race, you've done something wrong. You've made it too good.
Well, this goes back to our discussion about the development of the build quality, etc. They are still determined to have lightweight cars. My current Exige 380 there, half of it's carbon fibre to keep the weight down. Excuse me, which is incredibly strong.
The downside is, though, then somebody like you and me get into and completely ruin the lightweight ethos, don't we?
Well, 14.5 stone sitting in it does, I mean, it would have the same effect if I lost 3 stone. It's having all this carbon fibre, I suppose.
But yeah, as I said, the lightweight, but the one thing about Lotus has always been known is the handling. The one thing they can build into a car is the handling of them, and it seems to be it's run throughout the entire production life of Lotus. No matter where they've put the engine, whether it's up front, mid-mount, wherever they put it, Lotus cars handle.
They are probably the best engineers in the world at making a car handle, and this is why Lotus Engineering have been so busy over the years developing things for other car manufacturers. And it's commonly known within the Lotus world, but outside of that, other car people probably don't realise a lot of production cars out there, the handling has been developed by Lotus for them.
So when you build a car, you send it to Lotus, so you make that go round corners.
Exactly. And Lotus probably said, well, can we lose a couple of 100 kilo off this car first and then we can make it work. But yeah, all Lotus models, everything handles well. The original Lotus Elite with the Climax engine, etc.
Yes. Stunning little car. And you can see where the elan came from that, can't you?
Beautiful little car. Highly original in its design at the time, very forward thinking, lightweight components, lightweight engine, little Country Climax aluminium engine. There was a fire pump originally, but that car was a beautiful little car. It was very lightweight, but the thing that caught the motoring press originally was the handling of it. It was very, very nimble, and it went on to be very successful in racing, in the hands of people like Jim Clark and other racers at the time.
I must mention, she's waiting for this, I must mention Innis Island, because my friend Christian Ireland will be listening. And of course, we were saying before we started on air, Innis Island's, you cannot not talk about Lotus without mentioning Innis
You can't,
Island.
I agree. Fantastic driver back in his day, did all sorts of wonderful things with cars that you and I can only dream of being allowed to do these days. But I never met the guy, but I do understand he was a very, very nice guy as well.
Yes.
And from people that knew him or did know him and met him. So it's nice to know that he was one of the characters of racing. I think from what I've been told, that's described.
One day we must arrange for you to meet Christian. But I mean, you talk about that. The little the Lotus 11s and things like that. These ultralight little aluminium skinned cars.
All developed for racing.
Yeah, in a garage round the back of a pub.
Well, and the drawings for them were done on the back of a beer mat in the pub. But it worked. It worked. And they had, in the early days, they had absolutely fantastic success, starting with the Clubman's racing, cars that people could buy in kit form, throw together themselves in a weekend and go out racing the next weekend.
And the daft thing was, because if you supplied a how to put it together manual, it wasn't classed as a do-it-yourself car. So they wrote the manual back to front, and it was how you took it in bits. You just read the manual the wrong way.
That's the first time I've ever heard that, but I can believe it. The Lotus 11s and things are very successful racers, and they went on to do all the big races with big names driving, like Innis Island and other people. Very successful, and then of course that led to Lotus going into Formula One. And where do you start with that? I mean, so innovative, and completely turned Formula One upside down from design. The first cars to use the engines as part of the chassis and framework of the vehicle. The suspension was totally radical compared to what everybody else was using. And as you said, they could just drive away from everybody else in the early days, and it took them a while to other developers to catch up and designers to realise what Lotus were doing. And they had a fantastic career, and all the big names drove for Lotus. So many world championships under the belt over the years.
I mean, the ultimates have got to be the one Lotus that most people remember, the famous John Player specials, the black and gold ones with Andretti sat in it and everything else. I mean, they just killed everybody off, didn't they?
They did. They were just so ahead of the time and so forward thinking. And this was at the time when Colin Chapman was probably at the peak of his designing prowess, and just thought differently to every other designer, and could. If a problem occurred, he worked around it, but probably on a different plane to what another engineer would have done. He saw things differently.
Well, in the case of, that's not right. Well, the engineer, somebody would say, well, it needs a bracket fitting. No, it doesn't. No. There's a way of doing it different, so we save the weight of the bracket.
Exactly, and that's how they went, and the rest is history. Look at look at the history books for Formula One racing, and Lotus, and if they're not the first, the second or third. And I really think it's such a shame that they're not involved now, and I would like to think that maybe one day we'll see another Lotus racing team.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would.
Now we have to talk about that rather nice yellow and white elan that's sat outside. As I said, when I drove up your driveway, it sat there and you think, that's a really nice old Lotus elan. Well, the one thing I very quickly discovered, talking to Martin as he showed me around, it might look like a beautiful old Lotus elan, and that's where it begins and ends, isn't it? Especially when you take the bonnet off.
Yeah, it's...
Because apparently you were saying it was a car that was a myth. Nobody thought this car existed until you found it and put it together.
Lotus Elan purists might want to switch off now because they're not going to enjoy what I say. Other people will, but it is what it is. As you say, this car was a myth in the Lotus communities, in the car clubs.
Just very quickly, what year is it technically?
It's 1967.
Right.
Lotus Elan, drop head. Originally, that would have made it a Series 3, I think.
Yeah.
And people used to talk about this car, and they would say, oh, so-and-so has this Elan, and they're doing a full Spider engineering conversion, which is a space frame chassis, and making it suitable to put a 5-speed gearbox in and a different engine. You could put a Ford Z-Tech engine in or something else other than the twin cams. And anyway, we heard about this car, and then somebody would say, oh, so-and-so sold that car. They never got round to finishing it. But nobody ever saw the car. But there was all these rumours about it. Anyway, I got a phone call one day because at the time I'd been buying and selling a couple of little Elans and plus twos and doing a bit of restoration work and re-engineering things. And I got this call to say this car was for sale, and the guy that had it, it was somewhere just outside of Liverpool, and he'd lost interest in it. So I made a few phone calls and I thought, well, I'll go and have a look at this car and see what it is. And it's exactly what I'd been told, really. It was in bits. There was a shell that had been painted nicely with not an awful lot on it. It was sitting on a chassis, on some wheels, so you could roll it about, but that was about it. It did have an engine sat in, but nothing else was connected up. It was impossible to see it running. It didn't have a windscreen in it, and boxes of bits. And anyway, I looked at it and I thought, I can see the potential in this. This is the bodywork is good. It's been painted nicely. It has a brand new chassis. There's a new engine there with it, and I thought, well, yeah, I can take the time and put this together. It was a lovely new set of shiny alloy wheels and brand new tyres. Anyway, we did a deal, and I probably paid a bit more for it than I should have done, but that's what we do, isn't it? When you see something you like.
Especially if the guy selling it realises that he wants this.
Yeah. So we got it home and started work on, and basically, for anybody that is into Elans, they will have heard of Spider Engineering in Peterborough, who specialise in aftermarket parts for Elans. They've started by making new chassis, and then they've developed from there to rebuilding the cars themselves, and they can probably supply you anything that you need to build an Elan from scratch these days. Lovely people to deal with, really know what they're talking about. So I spoke to them, a guy called Andy, chief engineer there, very helpful, told him what I had, and he says, oh yeah, I know the guy. He said, we've sold him so many bits. And with a little bit of help from Andy, we got this car put back together. The car did go to Andy to do a little bit of work on, set up the engine, etc. for me. Because the engine that was in it was a modern Ford Z-Tech 1.8 engine, which people are probably more familiar with being in Ford Fiestas and things like that. But it had throttle bodies, an Emerald ECU, and I'm probably going to start talking technical for a lot of people, but the whole thing just needed putting together and setting up, which over a period of a year or so I did. We got it MOT'd, and then I came to road tax it, which because of its age was going to be free road tax, historic vehicle. I went online to do this, put the registration in, and they wouldn't accept that, so I put the chassis number, etc., and went through the whole process, and it came up that I owed them over £2,000 in back road tax. A few inquiries later, and after a few panics of shutting the computer down, thinking, oh dear, the vehicle had never been declared sawn.
All right.
And the computer system decided that it wanted to charge all the back road tax for this vehicle for the 20 years it had been off the road, which was a bit of a shock. Anyway, a few phone calls with DVLA, etc., sorted it out and allowed it to keep the original registration number, and they were happy that the vehicle was going back on the road and it now had an MOT. And lo and behold, suddenly the £2,000 was dropped and I could have this historic tax, which was a heartbeat away from the panic. But anyway, the car now sits. I rapidly discovered that the 1.8 engine, although we had it set up, it was producing about 170 brake. I realised the chassis setup could handle a lot more power, and I intended to use it on track. So I looked into tuning that engine, and I found that everybody I spoke to pointed me in one direction, and they said, this is going to be a big plug for somebody here. They all pointed me towards Dunnell Engineering, who specialise in Z-Tech engines, and they build the race engines and rally car engines and things. Anyway, I went to see Paul Dunnell, and he looked at the engine I had in the car and he said, nah, scrap it. He said, come and have a look in here. So he took me round their workshop and showed me the engines that they were building and what they were doing, showed me on the computer the different power outputs and what they could actually produce, and sold me on the idea of one of his engines. We decided on a spec because I wanted it for road use and the odd track day. I wanted fast road use. We decided on an engine that was going to produce about 225 brake with about 200 pound of torque. Sounded about right for me. He rang me about 6 weeks later and said, your engine's ready, Martin. He said, but I've had it on the dyno. It's not quite the power output that we wanted. He said, we've been a bit enthusiastic, I think, with some of the cylinder head work, and it's actually producing 242 brake. He said, but I won't charge you for the extra.
It's very kind of you.
So, again, with a little bit of help from Spider Engineering and how to change the engine and fit it all in, we got that back together. And together with the rest of the car, which, as you say, looks like a lovely Elan on the outside, but start looking inside under the bonnet and you'll see this nice Z-Tech engine on throttle bodies. We've got a big alloy radiator in there to keep it cool, etc. Move into the interior and the old Elan seats have gone, and we've got nice bucket seats in there, nice and comfortable for track and long distance. The dashboard, the original dashboard was lovely with the Smith's instruments, but they've long gone. And it's got a nice, still has a wooden dashboard in, but it's a homemade one with a set of instruments that came out of a smashed up Caterham 7.
Right.
But they work. Yeah. That's good. We have a nice roll cage in there just in case things go wrong. Underneath, running gear wise, we're running a full Spider space frame chassis with their suspension development on it, which takes away the rear Chapman struts that people are used to, and replaces those with your coilovers, etc. The brakes have been highly upgraded. We use Willwood 4-pot calipers on the front. We've got Ford Fiesta rear calipers with inbuilt handbrake, with outboard discs rather than inboard discs, all vented and groove discs. Running track day pads. The braking is rather spectacular compared to the original, but it's in keeping with the performance we get from 240 brake. It's very quick off the mark. It's very easy to drive. I'm running a 5-speed box, so an old Ford MT75 box, through a limited slip diff in the back that originally started life in a Ford Granada Scorpio with modified drive shafts, which works very, very well. The downside of the car is it's about as aerodynamic as a half brick. You get up to 100 mile an hour and you know you're doing 100 mile an hour. The car it's steady as a rock on the roads, but you start skipping around a little bit. It starts getting a bit worrying. The engine itself is happy to rev to 8,000 plus. The power starts dropping off at just under 8,000, but it's a good strong engine. On track, you would want to keep it up there between 6,000 and 8,000. On the road, it's quite happy to put around at 1,500, 2,000 revs around town. It's tractable and usable.
But the interesting thing is, when you showed me under the bonnet of the car, the engine that's in there looks like it should be in there. It's not one of these, like we've put this engine in this car, and you open the bonnet and you think, well, yeah, you can tell that engine wasn't meant to be in there at all. That Z-Tech in that Elan looks like it should be in there. The fact that the fuel tank has moved from the floor of the boot to behind the seats, everything that's been done to that car looks like it should have been done to that. It looks like positively Lotus could have built the thing.
Well, I would like to think, and I do see the people regularly, that Colin Chapman's idea was continual development of vehicles. And I think he would approve of the changes that have been made to that car, because it was all about improving the performance.
Yeah.
As you comment about the engine looking as if it belongs there, I think is down to Spider Engineering's development of their chassis and making the Z-Tech engine fit in there.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have properly made exhaust manifolds, we have properly made inlet manifolds to fit the engine bay, etc., makes it look all the better for it.
Yeah.
And it is a neat fit in there, but you can get everything you need to.
Yeah, there is actually plenty
on.
of space. It's not one of these you open the bonnet and, I hope nothing goes wrong in there because nobody can get in
Well,
it.
the original twin cam engine that would have lived in there, the 1558 engine, is probably not much different dimension-wise to the modern Z-Tech engine. With them both being based on Ford engines, the original Lotus twin cam was the pre-cross flow and bottom end with Lotus's own cylinder head on. Even the engine mounting's still mounted up because they haven't changed the position of the mountings at all. So it's a fairly straightforward fit to put it in, and it is possible to actually fit a Z-Tech engine into what I would call a standard original Elan with very little modifications other than to the front cross member and on the chassis, which to most DIY people it's a fairly easy alteration. So you can drop it if your twin cam engine has seen better days. And they are now very, very expensive to rebuild and replace the components in the cylinder heads and things. You can drop a Z-Tech engine in a weekend and put it on the Webers with the right manifold, mate it to your gearbox without any problem, or drop a 5-speed gearbox in. And to most Lotus Elan owners, they're quite used to having to haul engines out and things. So it's something that can be done.
I mean, the interesting thing is when you look at the car, it looks like a standard Elan. It even sits right.
Yeah.
So what you've done to it, or what with other companies have been done to it, they haven't altered the physical look of the car. It hasn't been like Mod Sport or anything like that, where if you squint it still looks like... This car looks purely original.
I have tried very hard to maintain the original look as much as possible. So from the outside, certainly. From a distance, nobody would know it was anything other than a Lotus Elan.
Yeah.
It's only when you get closer and people that are in the know can start spotting the differences.
Yeah.
The obvious one being the original Elan sat on 13-inch wheels with skinny little 145 tyres.
Yes.
Mine now sits on alloys 14-inch with 185 60 tyres on it. But they're all things that I think Colin Chapman would have approved of, because they're all adding to the performance of the vehicle and reliability. So hopefully people will approve of it, and I get very positive results, apart from you get the odd old guy that'll come past and say, oh, it shouldn't be like that, you know. And I'll say, well, I had a very good example. I was at a car show, which I don't do a lot of car shows, but it was the Lotus Club had a stand, and I had a guy come past and he walked round the car and said, oh, that shouldn't be like that, and oh, that shouldn't, oh no, and shaking his head as they do. And in the end I said to him, you know, well, it's my car, what problem do you have with it? Well, it's not like it should be, should it? I said, well, I'll tell you what, you give me a big handful of money, the car's yours, and you can put it back the way you want it. And the guy sort of looked at me, nodded his head and said, yeah, see what you mean, and off he wandered. But to purists, it isn't a Lotus Elan, and I get that. And I love a pure Lotus Elan as it was intended, as it came from the factory. I had a lovely, lovely fixed head Elan Sprint some years ago, which drove beautifully. and handled beautifully, and it was exactly as the factory had sent it out. And I couldn't knock the car at all. It's just nowhere near as fast and as much fun as what I've got now.
Now, we haven't got much time left, but have you ever had anything to do with the Elan that became the Kia?
No. It's a symbol.
Any particular reason, or have you no interest in having anything to do with the Elan that became the Kia?
It's better known as the Elan M100. Which was developed with a front-wheel drive configuration. I personally have nothing against it. I think it's a lovely-looking car. It was a period in Lotus history that kept them afloat. I think if it hadn't been for them building that Elan M100, Lotus would have gone under financially. The car was a huge success in that it was easy to drive, it was reliable. There's still an awful lot of them on the road being used with very, very high mileages on, thanks to that wonderful engine they've got. They handle like a go-kart, they're comfortable. It's just not a car that's ever really floated my boat. There's one of my neighbours just down the road has a beautiful, beautiful example that sits in his garage and rarely gets used, and he keeps saying to me, "Do you not fancy this one, Martin, for your collection?" At them, I have resisted, but if he drops his price enough, I could be tempted.
You could be tempted.
Nothing wrong with the car, but it's seen by some people as a bit of an outsider in the Lotus range for some reason. But personally, I think it was possibly the saviour of Lotus. So I'm glad you brought that car up.
Martin Lawrence, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. We're going to now go back outside and have a look at this absolutely stunning Elan. But thanks very much, Martin, for joining me on the Backseat Driver Radio Show.
You're very welcome. And thank you for your time.
No problem.
But I will let you have a ride in the car, I think, and I'll take you up the road and frighten the life out of you now.
Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hodder Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hodder Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddertyres.co.uk.